and welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson, your fun and friendly host. We are on episode 18 of season 2, the very best one yet. I wanted to give a quick shout out to John Pound Photography. We worked with John on our podcast, Brand Photography, and the portraits turned out incredible. He was very professional, and I enjoyed the entire photo shoot experience. I would highly recommend him for anyone needing quality portraits. If you are located in the Milwaukee area, reach out to John at johnpoundphotography.com. Thank you, John. Support from this podcast comes from Savvy Dating Game. Tired of swiping left and right? Try Savvy, the world's first live mobile dating game. Live every night, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Before we go live with our special guest, here's your Kelly Fass fun fact of the day. The longest wedding veil was longer than 63 football fields. If you thought Meghan Markle's wedding veil was long, get this. There's a woman in Cyprus who set the Guinness World Record for the longest wedding veil. How long was it, you ask? Nearly 23,000 feet, which is the same length as 63.5 football fields. And there's your fast fact of the day. So we'll get this party started right away. I'm going to introduce our special guest onto the show. I would like to introduce you to Vicky Carter. She's a storyteller on air, on camera, on paper, and in workshop. She's a BBC reporter, journalist, and producer, and lastly, the host of Let's Go Kick Ass Today podcast. She lives and works in London, UK. So welcome to the show, Vicky.
Hi. Oh, thank you. Thanks for the claps. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm grand. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, and I'm excited for you to share your story with our listeners out there.
Well, thank you for asking me. It's great to be here virtually, online.
Definitely. So I guess first and foremost, for our listeners that haven't came across your story already, can you tell them who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in the Middle East in Bahrain and Abu Dhabi, and then I moved to Surrey, and which is basically where Wimbledon, if because Surrey is quite a small place, where near where Wimbledon is. And then now I live in London. And as you said, I predominantly work in media and in journalism. And then I wanted to have a podcast that highlights inspirational, kick ass things, getting to talk to people about things that I enjoy and I'm passionate about. So I do that on the side as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, quite a story. I'm excited to get more into this interview and the details behind the podcast and what you do on your own daily grind, which is really cool. So, how did you first become interested in writing, journalism, and producing?
I didn't actually want to do that kind of avenue. I've done a long-winded career journey. Most people, I'm actually envious of the people who know what they want to do, and it's the one set job, and they're like, okay, this is it, and they get to their goals. I'd say quicker because they understand what they want to do. But for me, I'm like a kid in a sweet shop. I want to do everything, and I want to do everything that I'm interested in. And I first started actually being an actress and performing in theatre productions. And from there, I made the switch to applied theatre, so theatre with a purpose. I really enjoyed facilitating workshops in prisons with offenders, with children with behavioural problems, because I could see that drama would have an impact on these individuals' lives. It would inspire confidence and creativity. And so that's still an element which I love doing, storyteller in workshops. And I like how it's an equal level. Everyone is a participant, and we go on a journey. But I went to university and I fell in love with that. But I also fell in love with student TV. And I would go backstage these gigs and these music festivals, interviewing these bands. And I thought, oh, this is great. Having a chat with these people and seeing live music and interviewing protests in Manchester, which is where I went in the UK. And I thought, this is amazing. I love interviewing people and talking to people and getting these stories out there that need to be heard. So from there, I stemmed my career, and I ended up working as a presenter in commercial radio, and I worked across a number of different stations. I became a traffic broadcaster, so I'd talk on the roads, and then I made the switch from being a traffic broadcaster to a producer in the BBC, and I built myself up over time, producing for a number of shows and different stations where I currently am, and other places, to build myself up to be a journalist and to be a reporter. So yeah, it's been strange. It's been an interesting journey, and I've done crazy jobs at times just to pay the bills, to then get to this job, and loads of weird. I once interned for a place which, as a writer for this magazine, that never had the money because we think it was a scam. We think it was actually a front for money laundering, and I've done like awful jobs which just it's all understanding, it's all building yourself up as a character, and I think without those experiences it wouldn't have shaped me the person I am today. I'm very down to earth. Like, I'll have a chat if I'm talking to an MP or even a listener. I'll talk to them on the same level. So it doesn't really phase me when people are like, "Oh, can you contact this so and so?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure," and I'll just call them up. And I think having that personable approach is a lot better, and recognizing the human in everyone rather than thinking, "Okay, they have a story. This is an individual. I want their story," which I think journalism can be sometimes. It can be really cutthroat. People forget that this person's been through so much, and I end up sharing because I share a lot. I end up oversharing, and I remember I was speaking to this lady who had been through so much domestic abuse, and everyone I speak to, I'm hand on heart, I'm gonna have a good old chat with them. And I just thought, just said, "Babe, look, this you could do better than that. You deserve better than that." And heart to heart conversation as if I'd known her for years. And she turned around and she was like, "I think you're the most empathetic journalist I've ever spoken to." And I was like, how could people not be? So yeah, it's been a weird journey, but here I am now.
Mhm. Wonderful. Yeah, quite a background. I love that you came from a theater background and that storytelling. I think that's really built your character, like you mentioned, and being able to talk to people with different backgrounds as well. And you're not, changing your own personality to speak to them or vice versa, having them, change what they say or persuade them to talk a certain way. You're really unique, and you bring out the originality in people, which is really great. I think you're doing a really good job, and I think it's cool with you talk about the all the different jobs that you had. I know in the past, looking back too, like I've had some weird jobs, just trying to make the extra money to go to the university and whatnot. But here I am today, and here we are today on our own daily grinds. You're doing a lot of great things in the world. But with all those different experiences, do you have like, I guess, like the worst ever job, or like some kind of weird in one of your past jobs or experiences that really kind of the aha moment and saying like, I'm just gonna keep on doing this, or really motivated you to keep on driving towards what you do today?
Oh gosh. Well, I think the worst job I've ever had was probably actually cleaning toilets. I've cleaned toilets before. Yeah, I know. So when people are like, so graduates, they come straight out of university and they're like, "Oh, I have to do this admin job." I'm like, "No, no, no, no. You don't understand what, some of us and a lot of us have been through and experienced." So with regards to the aha moment was when I was at university and it was at that festival, and I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. This is really what I was born to do. I felt, because when I was an actress, it was so much fun to pretend to be someone else and literally delve into the emotions of a certain character. But actually, being a presenter, being a reporter, being a journalist, it's not about you, it's about them. And I'm more interested in someone's story, and I'm more interested in having a chat with them and seeing what I can do to get their story out there, to get it to different platforms, and hopefully inspire other people and encourage other people and build a community. And I think that is what I care about most, inspiring people to come together and open up in something, an experience that might have been traumatizing, but at least has an empathetic community that they can open up about these issues and come together, or inspire someone to go out there and live their best life, as cheesy as it is, but it's true. Living your best life.
Definitely, yeah, really well said. That leads me kind of to my next question in regards to, finding that passion in communications and storytelling on multiple platforms. You're not just on a single platform, but what made your interest grow your interest in, talking on different things, being a reporter, a journalist, having exposure to multiple mediums?
I don't really know. It just kind of all fell together, really. It was really bizarre. I started in TV and like YouTube, and obviously it's a completely different kettle of fish working predominantly in radio. Everyone always told me, "Oh, it's easier in radio. You can actually build yourself up quicker in the industry," which is why I switched to radio and focused on that. And I'll be honest, they're right. It is so much quicker to build yourself up, but radio is a skill, like actually being able to drive a desk and take live calls and read the traffic and adapting to so much. And it's not only news, it's also the program items, it's a music radio, it's speech radio. There's so many different buttons on the desk, you know? So I think that's a skill in itself. But then podcasting is a completely different skill as well. It's, weaving that narrative, using the sound effects and being able to engage with someone across continents, across screens, and writing as well. So it's strange. I'm not sure it's all kind of worked out. I mean, at university, I focused more on writing and workshops because that's my background stemmed from. And then it's just grown in time, really. I'm actually working on an audio documentary at the moment, which is obviously not live radio and it's not a podcast, so it's a completely different aspect of audio which I'm excited to explore. But yeah, there's just so many different ways. I've also started doing stand-up comedy as well, which is a whole different way of storytelling, which is so much fun. I know I actually did a Zoom stand-up during lockdown in the UK, and instead of, because they couldn't clap, you had 100 people on the screens and they'd like move their hands as if to clap for you, like so you could visually see it. Yeah, it was quite funny.
Oh, that's great. Those are really cool experiences, especially during this time as well. Something unique that you wouldn't have expected, beginning of the year. But yeah, you mentioned the audio documentary, the stand-up comedy. You're a freelance reporter and journalist right now. What are your favorite stories to tell or work on? Do you have like a specific medium or areas or categories?
I'd probably say human interest stories, ones that inspire and empower you, ones that, as I said before, can benefit people's lives in a positive way, or highlight a sense of injustice, which will then, yeah, build a community of people that can openly share their experiences and connect over something like that. But I'm most passionate about music, travel, adventure, women's rights, and the creative arts. So any of those kind of topics, I'm wholeheartedly always shouting about. And if I can inspire someone to open up about something or encourage someone to do something new, then yeah, that's definitely my kind of style.
That's great. Really well said. We talked about earlier your aha moment in finding that passion in communications. So moving along to your podcast that you have today, what was your aha moment in starting the Let's Go Kick Ass?
Yeah, sure. So it actually started um, from my mum, actually. She had a stroke when I was 4. So I've always learnt from her to live life to the full. She's always inspired me to go out there, chase your dreams. You never know what's going to happen. Life is short. Tomorrow is unexpected. You have no idea. So you've got to take each day as it comes and be grateful. So she's really encouraged me to put together a bucket list. And so I started to do all these crazy, strange things. And I started doing a hashtag on my Instagram, let's go kick ass. And then I thought, oh, actually, I could interview inspirational people about the things I'm most passionate about and hopefully inspire other people to live this kind of lifestyle and not be set in the boundaries of what society tells us to do and live in the 9 to 5 and settle for a job that we don't enjoy, but actually pursuing something that we're passionate about. And I think it doesn't matter if fair enough if you want to settle for a job, but if you're not living your life to the full by pursuing a passion outside of that, whether that's like kite surfing or knitting socks, at least create that life that you want to live so that you can enjoy it in other aspects if it's not feasible, because some people always say it's not feasible, but then at the same time one could argue anything is possible. You know, the two words for I'm possible, it says I'm possible. So
That's great. Yeah, I love it. I love your inspiration. It's cool that you have that personal tie with your mom's background. Live life to the fullest. Great quote. Lots of great key takeaways when you're just describing your passion project, your podcast, what you do. So, yeah, tell the listeners more about Let's Go Kick Ass Today podcast. So you interview a couple different guests on your show. It's a monthly format, and you talk about different like pop culture, music, adventure. How do you come across these inspirational people? Is it people in your network? Do you reach out to them on social media? Like,
yeah, it's so varied. I people I've met, people I've met through other people. It's yeah, networks, it's social media. Some wonderful people. Some people I've actually they send me a book or something, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll read it. And then I'm like, wow, you are amazing. I've got to interview you. So yeah, it's just those kind of moments really, and I feel blessed that people will reach out and want to have a chat with me, so then I can find out a little bit more about them and what they do. And I love the variety. The variety is incredible. Like I've spoken to individuals from Nepal, from LA, talking about topics such as sexual assault to big tits, like that's, and then it varies from music to like artists talking about the state of the music industry and pirate radio stations, to adventure to hiking mountains and getting over that fear and imposter syndrome. So I think every single person that I have interviewed has their own story to tell, and it's been really interesting to learn how they've faced their challenges and overcome them.
mhm. Yeah, I've tuned into a few of your episodes. I really enjoy that you utilize your platform to them to go really deep into their story, their personal backgrounds, how they grew from a young age to where they are today, and just seeing just physical or emotional or mental journeys that they've had in the past or challenges that they overcome. Like you said, I think that's really cool because then you can. It's like basically reading a book, but even better. Not just listening to an audio book. It's you actually get to visualize like what they're talking about and kind of see yourself in the background of their story, or hopefully inspire others, like our daily grinders out there too, connect with what they say on your podcast, and do good things out in the world. So really cool stuff. So as we say on the daily grind, keep up the grind. So tell us, you've had a couple many episodes so far, but do you have any like interviews or behind the scenes bloopers, funny interactions with guests on your pod so far?
Thank you so much for your kind words, by the way. That's so lovely. It's like, okay, can I write that down on a quote, put it on my Instagram? Thank you. um, Guests. This is the thing, because I'm doing an October video special for my podcast. But when I stopped moving house, I've moved now 4 times in 3 months in a pandemic. Um, so I actually have never interviewed anyone on Zoom before, specifically for my podcast before the pandemic. I really liked meeting people in person and having these long hour chats with them and getting to know them, because I thought once they become a guest of mine, I actually want to highlight their work to all the other platforms and networks I come across, and a couple of times I've used guests on my work and my BBC. I put them onto other shows, and they've now like gained traction, and they're in different newspapers and magazines and stuff, because I want to champion the work that they do. So now I've kind of had it on a pause for the pandemic, and I'm actually kickstarting it again. November the 15th is when I'm going to relaunch, and it's going to be interesting to be interviewing people on Zoom because it's a different kind of style. But the interviews I've done so far, because I'm in that personal environment, some of them have, yeah, there is one with Project Pleasure. So they are, the clues kind of in the name, the title, but it's about sex and it's about female pleasure. And Reed spoke for an hour, but I had to edit it down to 15, 20 minutes. And a lot of it I cut out of us hysterically laughing, talking about one night stands. Yeah. I mean, that in itself could be a separate podcast. And then there was a lady, Anna Hughes. She was amazing. She was vegan. She wanted to go flight free. And I interviewed her on her houseboat. So a couple of times I've been out and about and going to people and interviewing them where they are, which I really liked, going to different places and interviewing people when they're where they're comfortable as well. And I've never been on a houseboat before, which was so cool, like kind of have a look around, having a nosy. It was so quiet. It was in the Tottenham Marshes. It was in North London. Yeah, it was so beautiful. And I think a couple of others like Rosala, Nikki, Yo, they're both musicians. They, as soon as it kind of went off, we had a good old chat. They gave me dating advice, they gave me life advice, and just properly championing me. And I just felt that genuine connection with someone. I thought, okay, they're not just a podcast guest, they're actually someone who I'd count as a friend. So yeah, I think those kind of connections and those moments, I think, have been wonderful to come out of something like a podcast. It's fantastic.
Yeah, we love the teaser. We're excited for you and the podcast. November 15th is not too far away, so we're excited for you here on the Daily Grind. I love the storytelling. Again, just different people with a variety of backgrounds. We do the same here on the Daily Grind. Talk to
Of course, I was going to ask, yeah, what's it like for you?
yeah, across industries. We try to talk. We're based out of Chicago, obviously, but we like to talk abroad, talk to yourself in London, across the world, across the US as well. My background is sports, but I love talking to people in media, marketing, business, entrepreneurship, the health or medical fields, education. So we're really trying to expand our reach to all of our daily grinders out there, because we have people that tune into this podcast that don't do, everyone has a different daily grind. So we want to make the most of it and build that connection, those relationships. And I think it's really important to, build your network, stay in touch with others. I consider we've only been on the air for how many minutes, but I consider you a really close friend of mine now. So yeah, that's how you build relationships out there. Do you have takeaways for our listeners? And just like during this time, again, we still are social distancing, not going to do a lot of our social outings and meeting people in person, more Zoom calls probably for majority of this year, even though I'm still trying to get out and about when I can. But for our listeners out there, do you have takeaways in regards to help building relationships online or meeting people via social media and kind of getting the most out of those relationships?
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, I think you're going to ace at it because that's what you're doing. You're connecting with all areas of the world on a global scale. That sounds ace. Like I said before, life is short. So don't be afraid to be real and be authentic when you put a post and say, oh, I wasn't sure about this, or something silly happened to me, or like this is what I like to do. Does anyone else like to do that? I think taking advantage of this time not only to connect with others, but also build on ourselves. I've done a lot of reflection and a lot of self development and self discovery, and I've addressed things that I have never addressed in my life. And I thought that was like super important to do that, because then it's made me realize the kind of person who I am. And I think all of us are probably doing similar things. We're realizing what we're really interested in, what we hate, what we love, what we want to live for, and having that understanding and saying, okay, or I want to try this new skill, or I want to invest in more time in that, and then finding and building a network who are interested in that, who get equally excited about that, whether that's through Facebook groups or online social media groups that you can do Zoom stand up, you can do Zoom drama, you can do so many things on Zoom, Unreal fitness classes. And even with the Zoom, obviously that is a boundary, but having the little worded conversation like morning everyone, or like, oh gosh, that was a tough workout, just building that connection with people. And don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because exactly, it's like you said, building those connections not only in areas that you want to explore and invest in time more, but also in areas that you already are. Maybe it's catching up with a friend that you also haven't spoken to in years, and dropping them a message and checking how they are, because people appreciate that. I think our lives go so fast that being able to just drop by, or because it's, one like on Facebook or on Instagram is so impersonal. But if you comment and say, oh, you that looks ace, how you doing, and drop them a message or something, then I think it's just going that one step further, and realizing, okay, come on, let's have a serious conversation about anything. It could be about the weather, it could be about cheese, it could be about how you're feeling during this pandemic, but at least you're having a conversation with someone who you can build that connection with.
Yeah, these are great, Vicky. Really great takeaways for our listeners out there. Just building that personal touch. I think, too, being real, just having that simple conversation, act true to yourself. Don't change your, I guess, channel of voice or your personality. Just be real to them. You want to build those relationships. I have definitely during this time reached out to people I haven't seen in a while, just because with the transition, moving, we were talking off air, being in different places during this time, you kind of meet people or you rekindle those relationships that you haven't done in the past. And I think it's really cool to look on the positive, have that positivity during this time as well. So yeah, really well said. So with all those interviews that you've had with the variety of guests on your show, from music, adventure, pop culture, do you see similarities across industries and their motivation to achieve their goals?
Yes, actually. And I've spoken to, like you said, like broadcasters for the BBC, and people who've been in the army, and all of their varied experiences. Many of them have faced imposter syndrome, not thinking that they're good enough, not thinking they're fitting for the job, not thinking they're qualified enough, and having those moments of self-doubt. And it's always been someone that's encouraged them, and lifted out a hand and reached them up for support, and being able to build, sometimes it's even building themselves up and telling themselves, affirming that every single day, and affirming it into action, and making sure, okay, if I believe in it, then other people will believe in it. And it's the hurdles that they've faced, and it's all these challenges that have come, at the start of someone's career, at the end of their career, at the middle of their career. But the inspiring thing is talking to each of these individuals and realizing how far they've overcome and what they've achieved. Oh my gosh, I interviewed this one runner. She's a vegan, and she's an ultra marathon runner. She's like one of the fastest in the UK. She's like 7 continents,
Oh my
and
god.
she's vegan, and so it's like she's obviously got so much energy and fantastic at doing so. And she managed to get a blister at the time. And so she had to just, instead of stopping like most people would, she just ripped apart the shoe and just like tied it together and said, I'll carry on with this marathon in the Sahara with this big backpack. So that determination and courage and bravery, and that resilience as well in these, obviously that situation is quite extreme to most of us, but to continue, I think, just to continue, even if it's an awful day, or you haven't had the best day, it's been a more difficult day, just say, I've done the best I've done today. Tomorrow is a different day, and I'll face that day when it comes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Really well said. Yeah, I think it's cool. And I see that too a lot on the daily grind as well. People have different goals, obviously, in their personal life and career, but their motivation level, they have such a passion for what they do and the energy behind it. It's really cool to see when they talk about it on the show. What they're optimistic about, what their approach is down the road, and have those cool stories, like that marathon runner. So yeah, that's cool. Again, you dive into these conversations that you don't hear, the average Joe doesn't hear out there, but they bring it onto our shows, and it's just like, oh wow. It's great.
She was amazing. Yeah, she had a farm full of 100 animals, and I went there and I was like, wow. And she's like, okay, I need to feed all the cows now. I've been up since 5. I was like, you are a trooper. Some people you speak to, but I think obviously she's extraordinary, but also the conversations you have with everyone. I've had amazing conversations queuing in the supermarket, or connecting with someone buying milk, or over the cheese counter, or whatever. It's having the wonderful conversations. And I think those connections with people, especially now in a pandemic, just is wonderful. Smiling at someone through your mask, or someone else is in the queue, no, you go first, kind of thing. I think those still wonderful moments to still have those shared connections with the ordinary and the extraordinary.
Mhm. Yeah, like just looking at someone, just the average person in the grocery store, or when you're at a restaurant or picking up whatever, going shopping, you definitely have at least one similarity in common with the average person out there. And it's just, it asks like just one question or one greeting or just saying hi or how's it going can open up the conversation to anything, which is really cool. So again, going outside your comfort zone, you mentioned too, just being real, being yourself, and go out there and build a relationship with someone else. We challenge you on this pod. So after this pod, do something new today. Yeah. So I guess going in that motivation route, can you share with us some hashtag Let's Go Kick Ass Today motivation for our listeners?
I love that. Well, I think one should be challenge yourself. Hell yeah, that's definitely one, Kelly. Kudos to you. Yeah, I think that's ace. I think challenging yourself, I'm going to go with what you said. I think challenging yourself is fantastic, motivating yourself and just being the best you can be. And fair enough if you might be having a bad day, but if you make the effort to smile at someone else and they smile back, you might have made someone else's day. And it brings like there's studies and there's reports. This makes such a huge difference when you reach out to other people and you look up from the ground and you make eye contact with someone, and whether that's a nod or yeah, a smile or anything like that. And I think it makes huge leaps to do that and create a bridge with anyone and everyone. I mean, one of my favorite quotes ever is nothing is impossible, even the two words say I'm possible. And I like to post quotes every day on Instagram. And it's something, yeah, I do just to hopefully inspire other people. And I mean, there's thousands of incredible quotes out there, but I think really the difference is if you say it, obviously that's fantastic, but you've really got to take it in and sink it in. And that's when it will make a huge impact. So I think being aware of what you want to achieve and how you want to live your life and challenge yourself, and if you're ready to make that leap, and even might even just be a small step, but it might be a leap in your eyes, then you're halfway there, you're already on that journey of discovery.
Yeah, really well said, Vicky. Just being aware of your surroundings and being aware of what your goals are in mind and how to get there. Again, you don't have to go from 0 to 10 right away or 0 to 100. Like you can take those baby steps. It's really, really important just to get the ball rolling. Sharing smiles, I think that's really important. Really well said as well. Again, challenge yourself out there, daily grinders. So, yeah, we talked about your daily schedule, Vicky. What's on your daily grind in the upcoming months later this year?
Gosh, it's quite busy. Well, I guess relaunch the podcast. I've got a video special coming out in October, so soon, and then relaunch the podcast. I'm working on audio documentary. I want to build up my writing as well. Just, I guess, once that's all settled, I really want to start planning some more adventures, like obviously pandemic pursuing, but even if it's just adventures in the UK, like I love extreme sports. So I want to, and this is the thing, there's actually quite a few spots of extreme sports in the UK. There's like this huge zip line in Wales. I want to start climbing more mountains. Yeah, so I mean, I want to find a nice, healthier work life balance with regards to my passions and my interests, but also with my career as well, and juggling everything, because I'm quite bad at work life balance, I'll be honest. So I want to make sure that it's more equal and just I mean, surfing as well. It's freezing in the UK in February, but I've surfed in the UK before, and I just thought, why not? You know, life is short. Like, let's do these mini adventures and make the most of it. And you never appreciate how beautiful your own back garden is until you're there for a number of months, and then you realize, okay, yeah, we'll make these adventures and travels and connect with different people in different areas and push yourself out your comfort zone.
Wonderful. It sounds like fantastic plans ahead for you later this year in 2020, and exciting to do all the extreme sports and being adventurous. I'm trying to get outside as much as I can and learn new
Good.
skills and just go on hikes and
Oh,
yeah.
gorgeous.
So
Yes.
yeah, make the most of the weather. Again, make the most of every single day and your own daily grind. Yeah, speaking of word of the day, Vicky, do you have a word of the day for to motivate our listeners out there for today's episode?
I was inspired by a recent travel blogger on Instagram. He chose a word of the year to sum up his word, and he chose booked. And it kind of highlighted to how he's writing a book, he's been booked for work. And my word for this year would I would say was growing, because I've grown so much. I've had so many challenges thrown at me, and each one I'm overcoming and learning to be more resilient and growing from all the experiences that I'm facing. I've also bought a lot of house plants as well because of working from home. So I'm like literally surrounded by growing plants. So instead of me giving a word, I would more inspire your listeners to find a word that suits them for this year, put it on a post-it note, write it on lipstick on your mirror, whatever you want to do with it, and put it and own that word and say, that is me. I'm going to put all my energy into developing or success or ambition or lifelong, anything like that. And, or, happiness, healthiness, and anything. And yeah, just fully embrace it and put your energy and motivation to pursuing that word.
Mhm. Yeah, really well said. I think it fits perfect with today's episode, and it's very simple to do too. I really like that motivation. Just put it right in front of you because you walk by it every single day. I love it. The growing. You have your own garden now, I guess.
Yeah, you can't see them in this room, but oh my gosh, I have a plant that's the same size of me. It's a cheese plant. It's massive. I know. And it arrived in the middle of a work meeting on Zoom. And I went, so sorry, guys, I just have to get my plant. And then I came in and it was like a comedy sketch. It was massive. Everyone was like, Vicky, what are you doing? I was like, this is my plant, guys.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I love it. Well, yeah, we'll have to stay tuned to see how big your plant grows or how big the garden goes.
I love that.
I love
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, growing fits perfectly with today's episode. But yeah, last but not least, Vicky, if our listeners have questions, comments, I want to get in touch with you, want to tune into Let's Go Kick Ass podcast, how can you do so after today's episode?
Yeah, sure. You can follow me on socials, Vicky E. Carter. That's VICKYECARTER. And that's a link to my website, Twitter, Instagram. And there you've got links to my podcast as well. So yeah, share the love. Of course, feel free to listen and subscribe and share.
Wonderful. Yes. Be sure to tune into to Vicky's podcast, as well as we'll put all of her contact info in today's show notes as always. Thanks again for tuning in today's episode. A big thank you to Vicky for being on the podcast. Hey Daily Grinders, we have an Instagram contest with Savvy Dating Game for the month of October. Head over to @DailyGrindPod to enter and win a Savvy Dating Game prize pack and Target gift card. I'd like to give a quick shout out to our Daily Grinders listening to us on the pod or have been grinding with us since season 1. Feel free to check out our journey so far and share your feedback with us. Give us a rating and quick review on Apple. Virtual high five to you in advance. To find the Daily Grind, follow us on Instagram @DailyGrindPod and on Twitter as well. Check out our website at www.kjfwi.org. Daily Grind Pod, official podcast of the Kelly Johnson Foundation. Until next time, my name is Kelly Johnson. Have a great day.
Thank you.